What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, Justice Leaguers of the 2022 season, fantasy football fanatics? How are you doing? It is the commish, Ricardo Cannon, with my main man, Michael Langston.
Yep.
We're here, special broadcast. Today we're going to talk about our top 14. Our league this year in 2022 is going to be a 14-team league. It's the first time in 7 years that we've been 14 teams deep. It's going to be crazy. And this is just a little kickoff show. We're going to talk about the guys that we think are the top 14 players in fantasy football, which would constitute your first round. Everybody knows your first round draft pick. That's your foundation. That's your horse. That's your investment. That's what you're going to try to build your team around. Your first draft pick is really the direction that you're going to take your team. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to see. We're going to see what holds on Sunday. You never know. Mike, what are you thinking going into this top 14? What are you thinking? You think we're leaning running backs, wide receivers? What do you think is going to carry the mail this year?
I think most of them will be running backs. I think most people are going to go running backs or receivers because those are skill guys that you need, that you can build almost orchestrate your team around, as far as, those positions. Then, that later you'll get the guy that's going to throw in the ball. But I think receivers, even more so running backs, I think running backs will probably control the avenue, because there's not a lot of guys that are elite, that are running backs that can do some of the things that some of these guys can do, like the McCaffreys, like the Jonathan Taylors, and even the Austin Ecklers. There's certain things that make them elite compared to other guys.
Yeah, and that's an important note is we're a full PPR league, as you know, and as everybody that's in our league knows, and it changes things a bit because in standard leagues, you almost see exclusively running backs up at the top. Whereas in our league, being that we're full PPR, we've got some pretty cool, explosive kickers factored into our scoring system. That changes things a little bit. So I've got actually some wide receivers sprinkled in here, and I've got some actually pretty early. I think some people might be a little surprised how early I've got some of these guys, but it's always fun. It's always interesting, and we'll get into it. I'll just kick it off with how I got it ranked, and if you differ or you've got some points you want to stick in there, feel free to go ahead. But we're just going to kick it off, man. Number one pick. I think it's pretty unanimous across the platform. I know I'm speaking to the guy with the number one pick, and I've got a pretty doggone good idea who he's going to pick, and it happens to correlate with my number one pick. My number one pick is Jonathan Taylor. I mean, just a horse coming out of Wisconsin. He was a monster. Every running back comes out of Wisconsin seems like they're a monster, but this guy just gets stronger as the game goes on. He's built. He's an extremely powerful runner, and he's got breakaway speed, and he's very durable. He can take the pounding, and he's just a complete back. Skill set, catching the ball in the backfield. He can turn a wheel route into six for you. He can split the safeties on a seam. He can go A gap, B gap. He can bounce outside. He can just do everything, man. And he's hell in open space. So Jonathan Taylor, to me, given the offensive line that the Colts have, given the way that they want to pound the ball, they've got an upgraded quarterback. Even though he doesn't have the strongest arm, Matt Ryan can distribute the ball where it needs to go. To me, I feel like Jonathan Taylor is the safest bet coming off a monster year in 21. I've got Jonathan Taylor as the number one player in fantasy and the first pick off the board.
Yeah, and two, what helps him is having Pittman at receiver. That really opens up him where your teams just can't focus on stopping the run like they do. When Derrick Henry was there, it's just, okay, we focus on Derrick Henry. You can't do that with Taylor because they have Pittman, and we're both very high on Pittman. So I think, and then what Jonathan does well is he runs smart. What I say about that is, like, he knows how to get his pad level down. He doesn't take necessary chances and break stuff that doesn't need to be there. He doesn't push his body too far or try to, when it's there, he attacks it, and he has great balance as far as when he runs. You see when he sees a crease, I mean, he knows how to attack it, and he's a physical runner. That's the thing people don't feel when you watch Jonathan Taylor. You don't think about physicality, but he brings a lot of physicality to some of the runs he does, whether it's receiving or running between the tackles. So yeah, I agree with that one. I would put him definitely at number one for me.
And I've actually got some of the Yahoo math pulled up. Obviously, it's projections, so take it with a grain of salt. But the projections on Jonathan Taylor are through the roof. Over 370 points projected. Almost 1,600 yards on the ground projected. Another 355 in the air. and a total of 16 and a half, call it 17 TDs. I mean, he's just predicted to go absolute donkey nuts crazy.
Yeah,
So Jonathan Taylor is a very safe pick. And he will be a heck of a trade asset. I'm sure whoever picks them might be talking to the man who picks him is going to have some serious inbox activity. But hey, that's par for the course in Justice League. You know how we get down. We'll move on to number two. Number two, you know what? I cannot sleep well at night denying the talent and the fantasy excellence of this next guy. And despite 2 years of being hampered by injuries, I still have to give Christian McCaffrey his respect because his per game average is insane. If you have Christian McCaffrey and you start him in your lineup and he's healthy, he's an automatic 25 points. He just is. He is such an integral part of that offense. They get him the ball every which way to Sunday. I'm be shocked if he doesn't return kicks. I mean, the guy is just everything for the Panthers. I mean, I know they have DJ Moore. He's a very good receiver, quietly one of the best ones in the league. I know they've added a couple other guys. Terrence Marshall comes to mind. Baker Mayfield, while he's not super popular, I think he'll be an upgrade over Sam Darnold. I think that offense is going to move. And it really just comes down to, can Christian McCaffrey, with the added weight, added strength that they've been noting in the offseason, can he carry the mail? Can he give you, 12 of those 14 games in the regular season? Mm-hmm. And if he can, he's going to return some monster value at that number 2 pick. And I mean, all things considered, if you knew every game Christian McCaffrey was going to suit up and Jonathan Taylor was going to suit up and they were healthy, man, you're talking about a close race there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people probably give the edge to McCaffrey. Have to factor in somewhat, at least cerebrally, the injury propensity for McCaffrey because he's burned people. But, man, the fantasy explosion is there. I've got him as number 2. I can't deny it. I think that guy's going to be a monster again. If he can stay healthy, look out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and all those were great points. I think those are great points because if he's healthy, he's good to go. Me in our league, if I'm ranking him, I can't put him 2 with a lot of confidence because you're talking about a guy that hasn't finished. And yeah, you do have DJ Moore, but you're gonna have a new quarterback coming in there in Baker Mayfield. You got to get accommodated with that. What happens is he gets hurt or the passing. It just seems like there's always something that happens, and then he gets banged up, and usually when he's banged up, he's out for a while. So I can't put him number 2. The guy I have number 2, it might surprise some people, but the guy I have, especially in our league with all the kickers, is Justin Jefferson. That's the guy I have number 2 because he kicks in so much. And we saw that last year with how Calvin ran away with the title. When you have an elite guy or elite guys at receiver, you could really take over. Mm-hmm. And for me, Justin Jefferson, he gets so many explosive plays that over 20 yards or plus. And we already noted in our point system what that's going to mean. So for me, it was really close between 3 guys and and Eckler, Jefferson, and McCaffrey, but Jefferson just really jumped out to me as far as just that explosive ability to get points.
Yep, and I've got Justin Jefferson number 3, so I think we may have swapped. I don't know where you have McCaffrey, but I've actually got Jefferson number 3, and I know that's traditionally that's kind of a that's a reach for a wide receiver. But right. When we look at the projection here, we've got him over 350 points here in the Justice League for our settings. We're looking at just astronomical, nearly 1,500 yards receiving, another 10 TDs for him. I mean, he's just predicted to go crazy. Kirk Cousins is kind of a enigma, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, people don't look at him like he is a fantasy asset, but this guy has consistent 25 to 35 point games in this offense. It just feels like in the fourth quarter, Minnesota's just scoring a lot of points. And he targets the heck out of Justin Jefferson. They've got another great receiver in Thielen, so you really can't double team. KJ Osborne might be the only relevant Miami Hurricane in the NFL, but he's a pretty good number 3 receiver. I'm just kidding. They've got some ballers out there, but they really open it up for Justin Jefferson. And of course, they've got Dalvin in that run game. So right. I agree. Jefferson is elite. I've got him top 3, not 2. So that'll be something to look at to see if Mike's right there. Moving on to number 4. You have anything else to add on Justin?
I was just going to say, for me at number 3, I would put. I talked about McCaffrey, and I would put McCaffrey for 3. We kind of flipped them.
Mhm.
Just the only way I drop him is just because the injury factor. But I don't think there's a wrong way to look at that as whether you have my way or Rico's way. I think the top 3 is pretty consistent that they're all top 3 guys.
Yeah. I mean, you can interchange these guys. So we'll go on to number 4. Number 4, Jamar Chase. The guy had a lot of controversy surrounding him when he came in last year because the offseason was very rocky. They said he was dropping a lot of balls in practice. He didn't look that great in preseason. And he kind of dropped in the draft. And it was really interesting to see how far he dropped. And it didn't take very long for him to just get going last year in 2021. And then having his ex-teammate, having his old LSU teammate, won a championship together, that connection, the synergy right there.
Mm-hmm.
Jamar Chase had an explosive year. If we look up and we try to see what his projection is here, I know it's going to be very high. It's right under Jefferson's. It's 343, and he is projected to get 1,439 yards and 10 TDs. So, I mean, really, you're looking at almost congruent or equivalent numbers for Jefferson and Chase on the year. And that's back-to-back receivers that I've got 3 and 4. So that leaves 2 receivers in the top 5 at least, depending on what the 5th pick is. What are your thoughts on Chase this year?
I love Chase. I have Eckler at that spot just because I think Eckler is such a threat running and receiving and running the ball. And I love their offense. I love that you got Mike Williams in there. You got Keenan. You also have Justin Herbert, who's a great quarterback that I'm really high on. I think both offense. I think those are kind of interchangeable to me. But I would have Eckler at that one spot ahead. But I love Chase. I mean, you look at what Chase is in. I mean, you got Joe Mixon at running back, Joe Burrow, who obviously we know is going to get him the ball because that's his dude. And I think he's going to have a big year as long as he can stay healthy and just having those other guys like T. Higgins and other guys with him to really take some pressure off Jamar. That's why other people are like, why did he do so well as a rookie? It wasn't just, I mean, he was explosive. It was the other things that where he got one-on-one situations where he just embarrassed guys because he's so good. So
yeah,
Jamar's a top 5 guy.
Yeah, he owned it. And he was 1 second of pass protection away from having one of the more memorable game-winning Super Bowl touchdowns.
Yeah.
Gosh, what a play by the Rams D-line. But yeah, Chase all year, he was just unstoppable. One-on-one, it's a complete mismatch with that guy. So yeah, I've got him at number 4. Very, very strong pick there. Number 5, I've got the Triple Crown winner, the often disrespected Cooper Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp has been solid for a couple years, and last year he just went absolutely bananas. Robert Woods goes down, unfortunately. They pick up Beckham, but Woods was a big part of the offense, and then Kupp was just like, no fear, put the cape on, and he was just everywhere. I mean, the guy was beating guys deep. He was taking short, intermediate routes, breaking tackles, getting to the end zone. Red zone was an absolute monster, tremendous hands, and just a really cerebral and crafty route runner. And he racked up points. If we look and see what he's projected here for 2022, we have him all the way up at 367 points here per our settings, which again, we have explosive kickers and whatnot. 1,476 yards. He's got 10 TDs. The receptions, the targets are just going to be crazy. Cooper Kupp is just another one. And then another thing I always like to point out too is the quality of the team. These guys that we're mentioning, with the exception of McCaffrey, maybe on the Panthers, you're talking about guys who are on really good teams. I think Indianapolis is going to be really good. They fell apart last year at the end, but I think they're going to be a really good team this year, especially with Ryan. Ryan brings in some leadership. He's a guy who's been to a Super Bowl. He's led a team in a pretty tough division in the NFC South for years, and I think he's going to help get that team going. And then, of course, Chase with the Bengals, Super Bowl runner-up. Nobody wants to be that, but Kupp's on the Super Bowl defending champs, and you want to get really good players on really good teams because it just works like that. There's a floor there that's safe, especially when you're in your first round and you want to make that baseline foundational pick. What are your thoughts on Cooper Kupp this year? Do you think he can keep it up?
I think he can, because the one thing he does is, and what separates him from other receivers is he is elite in getting separation. He's elite in getting
Mhm.
opening and crease. I mean, he's very elite, and to kind of go to our point system, the first downs, he's going to be a big major part of that, because who do they go when it's crucial third downs? It's Cooper Cup. That's the
Mhm.
guy they go to when they get inside the red zone. Who do they go to? Him. I mean, that's the guy. I mean, if they need a play, they always go to Cooper Cup because his separation. He knows how to get a separation on routes. He's very good as far as depth route. He understands how deep to run his route and just how to get open, and then he just catches everything. I mean, he is a freak, and he's certainly a top five guy. If you want to build your team around and you're in that pick range of 5 and 6, you certainly want a guy to build around Cooper Cup, because the guy. I mean, last year, I swear it felt like he was getting 25, 30 points every week, like every
Yeah,
week.
yeah, he was a monster last year. He was a monster last year. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Triple crown winner. Anytime you're winning a triple crown at wide receiver position in today's pass happy NFL, I mean, you're putting up some sick stats. So Cooper Cup, I think he's 29, 30 years old. So
Yeah.
he's still on the right side of that youth. I would say wide receiver 31, 32 is when the wear and tear kind of starts kicking in. But guys are so good at taking care of their bodies this year. And that guy's just got a great work ethic, like most of these guys do. So I don't see a drop off there. I've got him holding strong at number 5 for
Yeah.
me. So number 6, I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit because I still refer to him as King Henry. Had a foot injury. Now, this is tough because he's a 250-pound guy, 6'3", 250, somewhere around there. Just an absolute monster. Foot injuries are tough. But this guy is one of the most insane workout gurus in the game, takes care of his body, invests in his body, and an absolute monster, just a nightmare. A guy gets stronger as the game goes longer. Fourth quarter, this guy is just an absolute bear. And Tennessee's identity is just grit. They want to run that football. That's what they want to do. Derrick Henry is the centerpiece. He's the heart and soul of what they do, who they are, just as an ethos and an identity. And I think they're going to get back to that. They brought in Hassan Haskins from University of Michigan, very similar back. I think he can probably take a little bit of the workload off of Henry, which will be a good thing. So Derrick Henry drafters don't fear if he's getting siphoned a little bit. That's a good thing. You want him to stay fresh for the remainder of the season. Looking at his projections, Yahoo's a little low on him, so that's why I said I was going out on a limb. Yahoo has him down. He's still in the top 20, but he's more along the lines of about 15, 16 down there, and they don't have him breaking 300 points. I think Derrick Henry's going to stay healthy for probably at least 11, maybe 12 of the 14 games, and I think he's going to return straight up, take it to the bank RB1 value. Derrick Henry, I've got him hard at number 6, holding strong. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the why people down him is because of the loss of AJ Brown. I think that's the part where people feel like, hey, that might take some value away from him. I don't slip him that much, but I'll go even more on the limb in my pick. There is, I'm going to move a guy that it might surprise a lot of people, is Najee Harris for me. I move
Mm.
Najee all the way up there because they're going to run the ball. They have, if they can get some not retarded dude to go out there and throw their playmakers the ball, and that's going to open him up. And I think he had like 13 to 15 touchdowns last year. So I think another Alabama running back, because they just produce those things like hotcakes from, I don't know, whatever your favorite pancake place is.
Waffle
I mean,
House.
yeah, whatever. They produce running backs like crazy. I love the way Najee runs. He takes good care of his body. It's a running town. If you look at Pittsburgh, it's a physical, hard to blue collar town that they're going to really focus on the running game. And
Mhm.
I just really been studying this, and I want guys I'm comfortable with. You know, that's why I like Harris and Henry. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Najee. I just think Najee's going to be a little bit better.
Hey, that's very fair. That's very fair. I think one of the reasons why, and we'll get to Najee because I've got Najee on this list, but I've got him down a ways.
Okay.
And one of the concerns is Mason Rudolph. I just don't
Mm-hmm.
believe in that guy moving the change. And while Najee Harris is a great PPR back, they've got him. I think he's supposed to have around 450 receiving yards, 2 or
Mm-hmm.
3 touchdowns, 2.3, I think it says,
Yeah.
touchdowns in the air, and that's in support of 1,200 rushing yards and 10 TDs there. So he's supposed to really fill up the stat book. But I am not sold that happens, because I'm not sold that Pittsburgh offense is going to produce scoring opportunities. And I know Ben Roethlisberger did not have the best arm. I know Ben Roethlisberger was not the sexiest passer. But Ben Roethlisberger was a pro, one of the best to do it in our generation. And there's so much that goes into quarterbacking that's not reflected in fantasy football stats that pertains to running backs, checks, calling out Mike linebackers, being able to switch plays, flip runs, do all that stuff. A pro veteran quarterback is going to do things to put the running back in great positions, and he's not there. And I don't know that Mason Rudolph, is going to be able to do that. And I think Kenny Pickens coming in, while he may be the future, it's going to be really tough for him to come in and get all of that stuff right. They're going to be kind of relying on Naji to make stuff happen, as opposed to having a quarterback that can come in and set the table for him. So that's my concern with Naji. That's why I don't have him up there as high. And then obviously I don't have confidence in Mitchell Trubisky. I think the Bears would like to do that draft over if they could. I'm pretty sure they would. So I think not. Yeah, so I think Najee's going to be a victim of the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh as it pertains to being elite. Still elite player, still first-round guy. I just don't have him that high.
I got you. Yeah, it's to me, I think it's going to be close. But I think both Tannehill's a little more of a veteran, so you can trust him more to do the checks and stuff. So, I get all that conversation. I think it's going to be close, but we'll see. That's why we're hashing this out, because we're going to have different opinions, and but on to the next one.
Yep, on to the next. So we've talked about what we've got with I've got Henry at 6. You had Naji at 6. I've got him down a little later, but moving on to number 7, I'm going to go with a guy that I know I've had a lot of conversation with my brother about, Austin Eckler. I've got Eckler at number 7. Now, Eckler technically could be higher. In a lot of fantasy football rankings, he is higher. I have concerns about Eckler's hamstring. It's been 2 years in a row that he's had hamstring issues. And Eckler's like a Wolverine. Like he comes back in 2 weeks and he's back and he's going crazy again. The Chargers have one of the best offenses in the NFL. The scoring opportunity is going to be just epic, there in LA. But I have that injury concern. They drafted another guy. I forget what his name, Spiller.
Yeah, Isaiah Spiller.
Yeah, Isaiah Spiller. And then they have they have Isaiah Spiller there, and they have a couple other backs that they've used, and I think they're going to kind of filter those guys in to protect Eckler. Eckler being so fast and explosive, it's just a matter of time before he gets a little tweak, and I know he won't miss much time, but I think he's going to miss a little bit of time, so I did knock him down. And again, all these guys we're talking about are elite guys. So we're really nitpicking here, but I've got Austin Eckler at 7. Where do you have Eckler, and what are your thoughts on him going into 2022?
Yeah, I have him a little higher as far as where I think I had him in the top 5, just because I think his value is so good at receiver that he's too good to ignore, and he has a great quarterback. He has an elite quarterback. Yeah, they're going to mix other guys in, but it seems like they say this every year, and then he still always gets. You're like, wait, who should I draft? And then every week, you're playing some team with Eckler, and they're like, oh, there's 27 on the damn board, and it's like every week they find a way, every year they find a way to get him the ball. Now, my number 7, I got Derrick Henry, because that's where I put him and Naji were really close. And those guys, I kind of take away from Eckler's the only one I really reach for that's kind of an all-purpose back. I really like the backs that are durable, that I know I can count on, that I know I can physically, they can take the abuse, because we know as now running backs go, now there's 2 backs on every team basically. But with these guys, you feel like they're going to be durable. They're going to be able to handle the load. They can both catch out of the backfield. So that's where I like Henry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're not far apart with Henry and Eckler. I've got Henry 6. I've got Henry 6 and Eckler 7. Looking at what Eckler's projected, and 361 points, 1186 on the ground, 9 touchdowns, 625 in the air with 4 TDs. I mean, he is supposed to go bananas in that Chargers offense. So it all comes down to health for him, as it does for most of these players. But I've got to I've got to factor in the history. I don't think Eckler's going to go down for a month or 5 weeks. I don't think that because he's tough.
Right.
He's a Wolverine. He comes back quick, but he does tend to get these little nagging injuries. Unlike
Mm-hmm.
McCaffrey. McCaffrey goes down, he's shelved for half the year.
Oh yeah, it's out. It's a long time. That's true.
Yeah, it's a long time. But Eckler bounces right back. So that's where I'm at with Austin. And moving on to number 8, I've got another guy. If you told me that he would play all 14 games, I'd have him in the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
I just would. And it's my boy, my fellow Noel, Dalvin Cook, the most explosive player, in my opinion, in fantasy football, as far as pure putting a foot in the ground and getting somewhere in just those first couple steps we talked about the other day. That guy hits a hole like Aaron Judge does a fastball high and inside. I mean, that guy is just a rocket ship. Dalvin Cook is, in my opinion, the most explosive and electric back in football. However, the injuries, the shoulder and the hamstring, it's recurrent. And I can't justify putting him in the top 5 or the top 3 where I think he should be talent-wise just because of the injury history. But the offense in Minnesota, explosive. You do have a guy in my top 3 from Minnesota, you do have a guy from Minnesota in my top 3. And so I think those guys can counter each other up and open each other up. But Dalvin Cook, what do you think about Dalvin Cook this year? What do you see for him?
I 100% agree with you. We're on the same wavelength. I have him at 8 too. I think he's so explosive. You have to have him inside the top 10 because when he plays, holy hell, like he is a 100 guy. What I mean, running back, receiving, he's going to get you 100 receiving. He can get you 100 running. I've never seen, and I do this for a living, what I do, and I've never seen a kid or a guy. He's not a kid now, but a guy that gets through the tackles as fast as he does. His acceleration to short space is so elite, and sometimes that comes with a price because it affects your hamstring. You get ankle injuries, and he gets banged up. But I think that's just the risk you have to take when you're going after elite guys, and that's really the key for Dalvin. Is if Dalvin can stay healthy, yeah, he's going to garner up there with some of those guys in the top 3. I mean, he can match them. You tell me he's playing every game. I think his stat wise, he will be able to match anybody close to that top of the list at as far as fantasy points. So that's the rub you have with Dalvin, and that's why I think both of us have him at that 8 mark because you just don't know how the injuries are going to play in with him.
Yep, and fantasy owners that are savvy know there's a guy, Alexander Madison. Really, if you draft Cook, you got to have Madison because Madison is so good in that offense. They're so comfortable with him. He gets in there and he gives you 85, 90 cents on Dalvin's dollar, which is crazy because we're talking about one of the most explosive guys in fantasy. Alexander Madison is probably a top 3 or 4 backup running back in the NFL, maybe the best. And so looking at what he's projected, I'm seeing 1,277 projected yards on the ground, 11 TDs. I'm seeing 369 in the air with 2 TDs. I'm 100% on the same page with you, Mike. That guy is electric. If he stays healthy, he can easily get you 150 and 75 in the air or 100, however you want to cut it. This guy can really amass the total yards, and he has huge rushing days too. I mean, he gets 150. He doesn't just get like 113 yards. I mean, Dalvin will get you 170, 2 scores, 3 scores. He has these monster games. So I've got Dalvin Cook holding strong at 8. I'm picking 9. I'm hoping he's there because I will be very, very excited if Dalvin Cook is sitting there at the 9 spot. But at the 9 spot, I've got a guy that I was high on last year, but he was on a bad team. I think this will be one of the most improved teams in the league. Happens to be my hometown team, the Detroit Lions, and this guy I'm referring to is Deandre Swift. He's picking up a lot of steam and a lot of these fantasy projections. I've watched Hard Knocks and I've seen the stuff. I know what Deuce Staley's saying about him. He could be the best in the NFL. I mean, I'm reading all that, but I was high on him before that because this guy, you talk about a 100 guy. I mean, coming out of Georgia, a guy could do everything. Guy's super explosive. He's tough. He's hell in space. He's got great speed. He's got a knack for the ball. He's got a great set of hands where he can catch. Jared Goff will dump the ball down in that offense. They want to have an identity of running the ball. I know they've got a great backup running back in Jamal Williams, which I love because it takes the workload off Swift, keeps him healthy. I think DeAndre Swift is going to be a top 10 fantasy player. I have him at 9. And if I look at the projections on Swift, they've got him at 334 points. I think that's right about on par. They've got him for 925 yards on the ground, 7 TDs, and they've got him for 683 yards in the air, 3 TDs. And I think that's going to be accurate because I think Detroit wants to really spread that ball out, but they want to focus on their run game. They have one of the better offensive lines on paper in the NFL. They've got a all-pro tight end in Hawkinson. They've got a former tight end as a head coach. He wants to bully ball. He wants to mash and establish the LOS, which all good teams do. I'm very high on DeAndre Swift. What do you think about DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, I think DeAndre Swift, you kind of stole my thunder. I was going to put him in the top 10. You didn't know you were going to slide him in there. But, yeah, I have him in the top 10. I have him at 10. Yeah, I have him at 10. But I have Stefan Diggs for me at 9 because he's in a phenomenal offense, probably one of the most explosive offenses around. If they can get their running back situation fixed, I think Buffalo can be just scary, scary good. So I like Diggs there at 9, but I love everything you said is right on the cue with Swift because here's the thing with Swift, man. It didn't matter if the Lions are behind or they're ahead. He is so effective in the passing game or the running game. So if you're behind, that's no problem. Dude, we'll just pass the ball to him like 9 times if we have to. And
3-down guy.
That's what I love about Swift is that he's not just a bruiser and a pounder. He's an athletic guy that you put into receiving wise, and he's going to put up crazy receiving numbers.
Yeah, he's a 3-down guy. I mean, he could do it all. And again, Mike, we talked about this. We talked about running backs that have that backup that's familiar in the offense that can keep them fresh. And we talked about that last year. And I know I've talked to some of the other guys in the league about that. Is that backup running back really is a safety net for you because it's taking that pounding. When you're late in the game and you're up 10 or you're up, 14, 2 scores, whatever, the game's comfortable, you can bring in a guy for a series like a Jamal Williams. Well, he's going to play more than that. But I'm just saying, for example, you bring in a guy that can take some of the pounding. He can take 10 to 15 carries and keep you fresh. And that's important. And I think that the league is seeing that. And you're seeing teams drafting guys, even when they have top backs, they're still drafting guys behind them. And I think Detroit, although they traded for Jamal Williams, who was a great running back and was really a 1B to Aaron Jones in Green Bay, Detroit's got a great situation running the ball. And I think that's going to bode very well for Swift. And what's funny is Jamal Williams is really good out of the backfield catching the ball as well. So they have similar skill sets. So you don't have to change the offense for them. I just think it works in DeAndre Swift's favor. And I think he's going to be built for the season this year. I will go out on a limb and say he's going to play 11 to 12 games this year.
Yeah, and the thing that I had him in a lot of leagues last year, and the one thing I noticed is this guy he played hurt a lot, like a lot. This guy, and he didn't miss any games. I mean, he plays physically and hurt, so he's not a guy that just gets like we see some running backs, and we've listed some of them that miss like multiple, like 3, 4, 5 games. Like Swift played on a team that wasn't that great, and that guy never missed time. So that tells you the motor and the mindset, the way he plays with that he takes care of his body. He doesn't get hurt. Now he has somebody. This team's a lot better as far as what they were a year ago, and I think that's a thing that people that didn't have Swift, that's what I'm pitching out to. I was like, look, this guy was very durable for me last year. I mean, I hardly ever had to take him out of the lineup.
Yeah, we're both high on him. We both have him in the top 10. DeAndre Swift. We'll see. I may have to put my money where my mouth is because I got him at 9. So we'll see if he's there. So moving along, we'll go and we'll round out our top 10. We're going to go all the way to 14. But to round out our top 10, I've got Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon had a tremendous year last year. This year, they've got him projected for 306 total points. Seeing 1,224 yards on the ground, 10 TDs. And then I'm seeing 371 yards in the air with 2 TDs. In one of the best offenses in the league, Cincinnati has shored up their offensive line. They've got Higgins. They've got Chase. They've got Burrow. They've got a sneaky good tight end situation. And I just think that Mixon is going to be in a position to score a lot of touchdowns because I think Cincinnati's going to be living in your red zone. And when
Yep.
you've got a back that's in an offense that's always in the red zone and consistently getting scoring opportunities, you just have to be confident that he's going to produce. And I'm confident that Joe Mixon is going to have a big year. I've got him in my top 10. And in many ways, I would feel safer with Mixon than I would Eckler, Cook, and Swift. And part of the reason is because of the offense that he plays in. The offense that he plays in, I know those scoring opportunities are going to be very, very voluminous. And Eckler, I always worry about that hamstring, and I feel like Eckler's going to miss more games than Mixon. So that's how I feel about him. But I'm not going to disrespect those aforementioned guys. I'm going to keep Mixon at 10.
Okay.
Mike, what are your thoughts on Joe Mixon?
Yeah, I love Joe. I think he's in a perfect situation because you're surrounded by, I mean, they have some of the most ridiculous receivers in the league. I love their quarterback. Obviously, I wouldn't trade him to Ricardo for nothing last year, and there's a
Yeah,
reason because
try.
I love Joe. I love Joe's mentality, obviously, but I think he moves. You move the chains with receivers with big play guys, but he puts them in position where Joe's not going to get as much volume as say an Eckler and these other guys, but he's going to get so many more scoring opportunities compared to the
Yep.
rest of the league, and that's what his value is. He's a big back. He knows how to run. He knows how to contain his body. He knows how to. He's shifty when he needs to be. He's got pull away speed when he needs to, and I love him. And around that top 10, 11 range. 11's where I have him. So obviously, I already said that we flip flop kind of Diggs and the other guy, Swift, you mentioned. So I had Swift in the top 10. So I would have him right as 11 for me. But you can, I think you could flip flop any of those guys. But I don't think there's a player running back that has a better situation as far as the offense than Joe Mixon. There's nobody that has the offense
Yeah.
that he has as a running back.
No, I agree. I think the volume of scoring opportunities living in the red zone, that's going to be Joe Mixon. That's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. And so that brings us to our number 11 pick. We've rounded out our top 10. Number 11, I've got a guy you were higher on. I've got Naji Harris at number 11. And we
Okay.
talked about why I've got him there. He's projected to have 314 points, 1176 on the ground with 8 TDs and 453 in the air with 2 TDs. He's going to get a lot of volume. And I know there was a statement released, I think it was from an OC, that they were going to try to lighten his load. Yeah, I mean, you're going to try, but you also want to win. And he is your best and most reliable football player. No, Deontay Johnson's really good too, but that's another guy that's in and out with injuries all the time. So this team is going to be as good as Najee Harris's ceiling is. So I've got Najee at number 11. I know you've talked about him. You're higher on him. I think number 11 is a fair spot. Still a first-round pick, but I have concerns, like we talked about earlier, with Mason Rudolph, obviously with Trubisky. And as much as I like Kenny Pickett, as much as there's some synergy there and some good feel-good with him coming from University of Pittsburgh, I still feel like he's going to be a rookie, and that offense is just not going to be in the red zone like some of these other backs will be.
Yeah, I think there's a reach factor with several of these guys we've covered just on the offenses. Obviously, Joe's not that. That's why I have him at 11. But for me with Najee, the only reason I put Najee up there is because I think what will make up for a lot of that is the receivers that he had, that Mason Rudolph has. I think they're going to hit explosive plays. They're going to
Yeah.
open up a little bit more. I don't think Mason Rudolph's that great of a quarterback at all, but I think if he can do all the right checks and you can get these playmakers the ball, they can make big enough plays. That can take pressure off Najee, and that's why I raised him up higher because I think the wide receiver play for Pittsburgh is going to be a little more explosive than what we've seen. Not because the quarterback's good, it's because the playmakers are getting the ball more. I mean, me and Rico bitched about it all year last year about Claypool not getting the ball.
Oh,
You
gosh.
know, just nonstop, just won't get him the ball. So I think that will be a more active thing that Pittsburgh will do, and that's why I'm betting. That's what I'm betting on. Doesn't mean it will happen. So that's why I have him high. But yeah, I love I love Joe at number 11, and I certainly love. I wouldn't argue against Najee Harris because I can understand the risk. There's risk in every one of these guys.
Yeah, there's no player that's shielded completely from injury.
Yeah.
Everybody has something. There's a linchpin in everybody's. And with Najee, it's just going to be that offense. How good is the offensive line? How much can the quarterback move the ball? And again, we talked about it, red zone opportunity share. Like how many opportunities a game is he going to be in the red zone where he can get 6 points? And I just don't see that as high as some of these other backs. So that's why I have him at 11. Number 12, I am excited about the 12 pick.
Yeah.
Pound for pound. Okay. Pound for pound. If the guy could play every single game and he could not be giving his O-lineman colonoscopies every snap because they can't get a push or create a hole. He's running up their rear ends. Man, Saquon Barkley, his workload this year, I think is going to be absolutely bananas. His ability and his talent, if he could just stay healthy, it's league winning. It's best in football. I mean, he's a monster. The kid has a heart like a lion. He's talented out of this world. They brought in Brian Dabble to run the offense, who made the Buffalo Bills look like world beaters. And I mean, obviously Josh Allen helps it a lot too, but that offense has the propensity to be a lot better. We talked about Kadarius Toney. You have Kenny Galladay, kind of an enigma. He's just really not finding his footing, but the talent is there. The Giants are supposed to be improved. A lot of offseason is saying Daniel Jones is a little better. If Daniel Jones can stop running around himself and put Saquon Barkley in position to do some of the stuff Saquon Barkley can do, holy moly, we're talking about an explosive year. He is actually the number one projected player in our league. Obviously, they're not factoring in injuries, but if you look at the numbers, 380 points from a skill. Obviously, quarterbacks score more, but from a skill, 380 points. Almost 1,300 yards on the ground, 9 TDs, and a whopping 666 in the air, 3 TDs. I mean, you're talking about possibly the biggest share of opportunity and touches on the ball in fantasy football here. Linchpinned on health, as is the case with all these backs, but you're talking about a crazy workload, Saquon Barkley. And I know you like the backup running back in New York.
I do. Ja'Shawn Corbin, Seminole. He's really good. I think he'll help. I have my number 12. I'm going to go with another guy I'm kind of reaching on a little bit, but we talk about this with the offenses, and I think this guy fits the offense so well that I just had to shoot him up higher than a lot of people have him. I have Leonard Fournette at 12. I just love Leonard that high because he's a guy that you can run in any situation. You can throw to him. He's physical. He plays in a very dynamic offense. You don't get a better quarterback because there's nobody better than Tom Brady as far as checks, making sure where you're supposed to be. I just think he's going to have a big year. Godwin can come back healthy. You can keep Evans off the side, and you can get some more tight end help, whoever comes in there to kind of fill that role. I think Fournette can have a big year. I struggled with Fournette, CD, and Saquon because I love all three of those guys, but I just really think that Leonard's going to get ready to have a breakout year. I just love everything he does with his game and how we talk about the offenses and guys that are in offenses that can really be exploited. We talk about Joe Mixon. Now we talk about Leonard Fournette. I think Leonard can exploit that.
Yeah, 100%. I'll drop down. I don't have Leonard in my top 14, but I see why you do, because 304 points. You're looking at 1,100 yards on the ground, 10 TDs in rushing. You're looking at another 420. That's the sneaky thing with Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette doesn't have the best hands, but Tom Brady is going to check down before he takes a sack, and he's going to put Leonard in a great position. So they got him 420 yards, 2 TDs projected. That's a lot of workload for Leonard. I don't really know who Tampa's backup running back is going to be. They got the Rachaad White guy. I'm not sure if they had the kid from Vanderbilt is still on the roster there. I mean, I know Leonard has had hamstring issues before, but you're talking about a guy when he was with the Jaguars, he was a monster. I mean, just a monster workload. And now he's obviously on a better team. They've got some offensive line issues. They've got to work out there in Tampa. I imagine they're probably going to get busy in the free agent pool to try to shore that up. But they're positioned to compete for a Super Bowl. So they're going to do that. and they're going to go to their moneymakers. They've got great receivers. Godwin's ramping it back up. They think he may be ready for the first couple weeks of the season. Obviously, Julio Jones is there. He's more of a name at this point, but he's still skilled. He's still a guy that's a tough cover. And then they've got, Mike Evans. Mike Evans, one of the best in fantasy football, one of the best in the league just in general. It's just a touchdown magnet. And then they've got the guy they got from Atlanta, Russell Gage, is another one.
That's the
Scotty
guy.
Miller. Yeah, they got some dudes. They're going to spread it out. They're going to open it up. So
yeah, I love Gage being there. I think that tends into my pick with Leonard. I think there's so many receivers that it's going to open him up. I love the Gage pick. That was phenomenal. I think their offense is going to be really explosive. So that's my reasoning's more of the offense being explosive and what I've seen Leonard do when I have him, and the durability of how he can take and how he can score and the scoring opportunities. We talk about that a lot. That's something that people are going to have to factor in, scoring opportunities. It's not just if your guy's elite and he's elite talent. The guys that are get better scoring opportunities might score better as far as a fantasy perspective. So that's why I like Leonard.
I see why you like him. I don't have him in the top 14, but I see why you do. So that takes us to number 13. And number 13, I've got a guy that I'm very, very fond of, and Trey knows why. CD for the TD Lamb. No Amari this year. Okay, Amari's in Cleveland. CD Lamb is going to be bumping to the outside. Dak Prescott needs to kind of win some of the fan base back. I think he's going to lean on CD a lot. Now, CD's had a lot of drops. I know you're an avid Cowboy fan, so I know you're very aware of this. But CD's talent and his catch radius and his spectacular catch ability and his explosiveness is simply undeniable. CD Lamb is one of the most explosive receivers in football. I think this is the year that he takes off. Year 3 for him. I think he's going to take off this year. I think CD is going to have a huge year. I've got him at number 13. And if you look at the numbers he's supposed to get, he's way up there, 320 points. You look at the receptions that he's supposed to get and the yardage. I mean, you're talking about 1,232 yards projected, 9 TDs. And CD Lamb does get stuff on the ground too. So they're thinking he's going to be in the return game. He's going to be running the ball. I mean, this guy just does everything for Dallas. Feature presentation. CD Lamb, I've got number 13. I want to hear it because I know you're high on him, and I know this is your guy.
Yeah, that's my guy. I love CD certainly from Oklahoma for people that missed his college years. But the thing with CD, and you covered it, his catching, sometimes the lack of focus. He's had drops, but he has the same ability to get those 20-plus yard plays. That's what he does. Like Justin Jefferson we talked about earlier, he does some of that same stuff. Now he's going to be the feature guy. My feeling is top 13 is certainly where I would have him. Same place as you. I think it's dependent upon Michael Gallup because I think they got a really good tight end that they use a lot in Dalton Schultz, who I love. I think Dalton certainly is playing there. And I think Dak being back in the full season, being healthy, I think CeeDee's in for a big year because now he's the number one guy. He's going to get more explosive big plays. Like Justin Jefferson was the one on Minnesota forever or was last year. CeeDee's never been that guy. So now he's getting his chance to be the number one guy. So I think you're going to see some big numbers from him. I think they even have him a little bit lower as far as point total that he's probably going to get because I think he's going to get a little more explosive plays than people have on there. So I think he's going to have a big year as long as he can stay healthy and Dak can stay healthy, I think, and just have somebody take a little pressure off him. I love what they have with the two tandem with Zeke and Pollard. That's going to help him as well. Now, they did use CD on special teams. I don't think you're going to get any points there because I think they're probably going to use the guy from the USFL that they got that they're really high on.
He proved why.
Yeah. So I think that part will be taken out, but I think you'll see some end arounds. Dallas loves running end arounds with CD because he keeps you balanced and all. And if you're not there, I mean, he's going to embarrass you and make big plays. And Trey found out that when he played Rico for the championship and took the end around for a 6 and pretty much put the game fantasy title on ice. So I just think CD does so many things, whether it's blocking, whether it's catching bubble screens, whether it's going down the seam. He's going to make more explosive plays than I think what we've seen before.
Yeah, CD's in line to have an absolutely monster year. And I think some of the concerns, we talked about this in our group chat, and people were questioning him because he lines up inside and he played slot when Amari Cooper was obviously there. I think this works to his benefit because if you're an opposing defensive coordinator and you say, okay, we're going to stop CeeDee Lamb, well, how do you stop a guy that they can literally comfortably move all over the field? End around, they put him in the backfield, they put him in the slot, they put him on the outside, they put him in X, put him at Z. They line him up everywhere. So you're talking about a guy that can play all the wide receiver positions because he's already played him in Dallas. It's year 3. It's going to be extremely comfortable. CeeDee Lamb is maybe the most versatile receiver outside of maybe a Deebo Samuel, but he's going to get more feature presentation than a Deebo Samuel is going to get with a quarterback that can throw better than I think Trey Lance can throw, which is why Deebo's not in my top 14. CeeDee Lamb, huge potential. Maybe I have him too low. Maybe.
I think you could argue that because of his ability, to get, 15, 20 yards of play. And like I said, he's never been that number one guy. Now he's the number one guy. Amari was the security blanket last year. Now it's going to be CD with those big plays. And, I think he's going to have a good year.
All right, this is going to be our last piece of at least my top 14. We'll see what Mike thinks about it. I've got a guy that people are kind of writing off. They're writing him off because he's no longer in Green Bay, but he happens to be playing with his best buddy and Mr. Carr out there in Las Vegas. I've got Devonte Adams at 14. If we look at the numbers that he's projected to get, he is 315 points. He is going to be projected 1,257 yards, 9 TDs. Here's what I love about Devonte Adams. Devonte Adams, one, is comfortable with the quarterback. That's the first thing you want. Quarterback-receiver relationship, so huge. If they like each other, if they're on the same page, you're talking about guys that in the summer you have your optional workouts and whatnot. These are guys that probably go over each other's house and they go in the backyard and they probably throw the ball around. They probably talk 3-4 times a week about how they can attack opposing defenses in ways that they can get each other in the best possible position. And Derek Carr is not afraid to put the ball downfield. He loves doing that. Devonte Adams, in my opinion, still right now, skill set wise, is the most skilled and the best receiver in the NFL. Still, I've felt that way about this guy for probably 3-4 years now. And I still feel that way. I think he's 30 years old. He's either 29 or 30. Age is not a factor. Had a tremendous year last year. Was healthy. Health is not a factor. This guy's got prototypical size. I think he's like 6'2", maybe 210, 213. You can't jam him. He'll beat your ass. He can run past your ass. I mean, he can do a lot of things to you from an offensive wide receiver standpoint. I mean, the guy's just the standard as a receiver. And I'm not scared of this situation in Las Vegas. And there's a guy at tight end that is extremely good in Darren Waller. And then there's another guy that people don't talk about in Hunter Renfrow in the slot. Okay, that's occupying a safety, that's occupying a backer. You're not going to be able to double Devonte Adams like you want to double him because you have a premier tight end and you have an extremely good slot receiver. The running game is going to be what it's going to be. Jacobs is good when he plays. And Carr is a lot better than he gets credit for. But I think the relationship between those two is really what's attractive about Devonte Adams for me at the 14th spot. I've got him in there. I think he's going to have a hell of a year. What are your thoughts on Adams there?
He's the wild card as far as when I look down this whole thing, top 20. He's the wild card for me because, I mean, if you look back at his Green Bay, we know how elite Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is elite. He knows how to get on the ball. Derek Carr is certainly a capable quarterback. And yes, matchup-wise, Darren Waller is one of the most explosive tight ends out there. Obviously, you got to factor in he got banged up a lot last year, didn't play a lot. He was injured a lot. So if he gets another injury, what happens to that advantage? And then, Hunter Renfrow all the way back to his Clemson days. He's certainly effective. I would, if I had a top 15, I would have Devonte Adams at 15. That's how high I think him explosive wise. But the guy I would have at 14, and this is another one where you're dependent upon a guy that quarterback is going to be his first year quarterback in Trey Lance, and the guy I would pick is Deebo Samuel. There's just nobody that does what that guy does. I haven't seen anybody that plays the way that guy does after the catch. Like, he
Yeah,
is
he's a
so
monster.
physical. It takes like 3 or 4 guys to bring him down. They love running this guy. We know San
Hmm.
Francisco probably still don't have a damn running back because they use like 50 of them, and they use Debo gets like 8 carries a game, which is kind of ridiculous for a running back.
Yeah.
And I just think the guy is so high volume. It kind of fits to kind of the thing. You also have Brandon Ayuk, you have George Kittle, you have all these guys. You stay healthy with those guys, that's just going to open up Debo. And I just like Debo a little bit higher, just in that 14. I love the offense he plays in. It kind of gets him the more volume compared to Adams. I wonder how much Adams is going to get as far as value compared to what he had at Green Bay. That's my only drawback on Adams is, are you going to get the
Right.
value that you got in Green Bay throwing the ball to you?
Right. And Aaron Rodgers is obviously an MVP, multiple MVP for a reason.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers is pretty special. I mean, say what you want to say about him. He's a strange bird, but Aaron Rodgers is a magician with the
He's
ball.
odd.
And,
He's odd.
and his relationship with Adams is crazy. Yeah, no, Deebo Samuel, I feel you on Deebo. Debo's one of my favorite players. I'm really concerned about Trey Lance.
Yes.
His ability to spread the ball around and feed all those pieces that they have. You have Ayuk, who's been the star of their camp per reports. Kittle is obviously Kittle. Kittle's an absolute monster. Trey Lance is going to take off with the ball himself, and you've got a bevy of backs. They've got Trey Sermon. They've got Elijah Mitchell. I mean, you name it. They've got like 16 of them that they use, and Shanahan is just not loyal to any of them. So it's going to be interesting to me. I left Samuel out of my top 14. He's out of the first round for me. Kelsey, I left out of the first round for me because I think they're going to be able to focus more on him. With Tyreek Hill not being there, I think they're going to be able to focus a little more on Kelsey, and Mahomes is going to be forced to kind of deliver that ball all over the field, which I don't think he'll have a problem doing. But I don't know that Kelsey – I felt like Hill opened up Kelsey a lot because the middle's open, right? You've got to take a safety and dedicate him over the top, and that's where Kelsey would kill you down the seam. He just did it now. Now that's not necessarily the case. Kansas City has speed guys, but I don't know that they have the type of guy like Tyreek Hill. He's pretty special. So I left Kelsey out. Another guy that's in a lot of top 14s is Alvin Kamara. And I'm just going with a gut feeling here. I love Kamara's ability. He's so versatile. He's tough. He's elite. I mean, I'll never forget the game where he had 6 TDs on Christmas. I mean, it was insane. That guy is super talented, but there's something in New Orleans I just don't like. And I know he's got some off the field stuff. I guess he got in a fight or whatever. He's getting charged with that. They think that might be delayed. I don't like that hanging over his head. I think Mark Ingram's still in New Orleans.
Yes.
I love the potential of Jameis Winston, but it's my dog. It's a no. But I'm not sold that the health is going to be there. And I'm not sold that the offense is going to be clicking the way that it needs to for Kamara to have a huge year. You've got some different stuff. You got Mike Thomas coming back. Obviously, he was WR1, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. His talent is immaculate, but there's just some stuff that's off there. So that's why I left Kamara out. There's too many sidebars. There's too many things coming out of left field there in New Orleans right now for me to feel comfortable keeping Kamara in there. And the other guy I left out of my top 14 that's in a lot of them is Stefan Diggs. And that's because I think Gabriel, as the number 2 in Buffalo, is going to siphon a lot of opportunities from him. Knox is going to be big time out there in Buffalo. I think Dalvin Cook's brother James is going to factor in later in the year. And I just don't think that Diggs is going to be relied upon for the volume. He's still going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. He's still going to be awesome. But I couldn't justify him in the top 14 first round for me because when I looked at it, I have more of a gut feeling on Adams. And I feel more comfortable with CeeDee Lamb. I just think CeeDee Lamb is going to be a monster this year. And that's kind of where I was looking at Diggs.
Yeah, and I agree with you on Alvin. I think there's just nothing that scares me about that offense except for Alvin. When I look at it, I mean, there's Michael Thomas, but he hasn't really done anything since Drew retired. And it's just there's no number 1 receiver in that offense. There's no tight end to take away stuff. There's no quarterback that I love Jameis, but there's still no quarterback that's really you feel like he's in control and running that thing. I mean, even when Jameis played last year, I mean, you're talking about 150-yard games and stuff like that too. It wasn't like the prototypical
Yeah.
Saints offense when you watch them wide open. So I need to see more about this offense. And yeah, if you have somebody suitable, yeah, if you say you had a guy like Kirk Cousins in New Orleans, yeah, I feel really good about Alvin Kamara because I know he's going to get the ball. I know he's going to be able to get the ball to receivers. So my play is more the quarterback play really opens up Alvin Kamara. So you have to drop him down because you can't depend on that stuff. It's a big risk. And besides that, I think we differ on a few things, but it's mainly on what situations happen with the offenses. It's like me, I'm higher on Diggs because I think Diggs is going to get a lot of scoring opportunities. I think Dawson Knox is going to take a lot from that. I think Gabriel's going to take a lot from that. I still don't think they have a damn running back. I don't know why it's so hard for Buffalo to get a damn running back, but they can't. For some reason, Buffalo can't have a running back. But if they ever get a running back, I think it'll cause serious problems for probably his numbers, but it really a lot of our differences, and they're not far away, is just mainly the offenses.
Yeah, and I'm looking down the list here for Yahoo's projections and just the guys they have in the. I want to say they go up to 25 here, and I'm just not seeing anybody that I would knock out of my top 14 to put in there. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of where I'm sitting. I've given my thoughts. Mike has given his thoughts.
Yep.
Our draft is coming up. I mean, it is 12:42 here Central Time. We are a couple days away from our 2022 draft. Couldn't be more excited. This is just a little bit of opinion and insight from the commish and from Mike. Hopefully, this is well received. And it's not made to influence anybody's draft selection, but this is just what I'm thinking. So please feel free to let any of these guys that I've got 5, 6, 7, 8 fall to 9, because I'll be elated to pick them for you.
Yeah, and we're just going to give you guys different viewpoints on kind of why I think this way and why Rico thinks this way, and just there's no wrong or right. It's just we're giving different viewpoints of why we would put it this way or that way, and it tells you how difficult it's going to be on Sundays. So do your homework, guys. Like, really, don't just show up and think you can just pop in there and know. Do some study on these guys. Study whatever the Yahoo rankings are, whatever rankings you look at.
Yeah.
Really study what you feel like your team was lacking last year. If you played last year, or if you're new, just look at whatever you feel like, hey, whether that's load up at running backs or load up at receivers or whatnot. Do what you're comfortable with, but this is just some perspective to let you guys kind of know, kind of thinking out loud what we feel about these guys.
Yeah, and another tool, again, we're really working on transparency. I know I'm trying to work on transparency here for this league because I want the floor raised. I want everybody to feel like they've got a great team and they've got a chance to win every week. And the way we're going to have 14 weeks this year that we're playing, 14 champions. I mean, if you win one week, I want you to feel like a champion because this is a 14-team league. It's going to be ultra competitive, and it's hard to be the best out of 14 any given week. So I want to make sure that there's transparency and everybody understands you can go to Yahoo within the Yahoo site. You can go to the player list, and then you can go down and break down the top 10, 25, 50 players per position, and it runs the math for you with our settings in mind. Okay, which, mind you, our settings are different because you have explosive plays. You're getting kickers for first downs. You're getting a lot of stuff that are not standard, but we ain't normal. Justice League, we ain't normal, and we don't try to be. We try to be extra. We try to be over the top, and we try to be kind of cutting edge, and I think we are that. But all the fantasy football Justice Leaguers, go to the Yahoo site and look at the fantasy points per position, and you can break it all the way down so you can see what kind of value you're getting and what the experts at Yahoo that get paid to do this think that these guys are going to do. Obviously, you got to factor in injuries. We can't factor that in the math because we don't know how many games people are going to miss. But it's all there. So, guys, just check this out. You can get an idea of what you're looking to do for your draft plan. You can go out there in a snake draft. You can figure out which positions that you're drafting in. I've done that. If you see here, for instance, I know I'm picking the 9 spot, the 20 spot, 37, 48. I've got a list of players, ADP, that I think will be there around that spot. That's what I'm doing. It's right there. It's out there for the public to see. There's no secret behind it. And I would encourage everybody to do something similar. I mean, it only sets you up. You know where you're getting value. We're going to keep track of who gets value per ADP based on where they're picking, and see who does the best job getting value. But, draft grades are draft grades. You got to see how things shake out. And at the end of the day, you got to go with your gut. You think guys going to have a monster year, go ahead and pick them. But the tools are out there. They're right there. You can check them out, and you can see what guys are projected to do, and you can factor that into your draft mechanics. And I just wish everybody the best of luck. I can't wait to communicate with everybody. I think it's going to be the best year that we've had. We're going to put a lot of content out there. I'm very excited. I've got my Justice League gear on. I've got my Justice League shoes on. If you can see that, I'm going to pull a hamstring getting it up there. My Justice League pants on. We're not playing games. I'm knocking stuff down. I'm getting hyped up. Let's go, man. Sunday, it's going down.
Yep.
It's going down. Mike, you got any parting thoughts? Let me pick up my sign here.
Yeah, you're show a little. I love emotion, but yeah, it's just we just want people. We're trying to give you perspective on looking at things of different angles, which is why Rico want to give his 14. I want to give my 14, and we have different reasonings for it. And we bring in a third one. You probably have a third person that would be different than our reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
So just really study these things. Not just that. Study the the defensive player thing that we've added that's new. Study what guy that fits your lineup, and just enjoy it, guys. Just enjoy the moment. This is a time to enjoy and have fun with guys, but it's also a time where you can go out there and be the manager and be the guy, because whatever happens, whether it's trades, drafts or whatever, you're going to be responsible for whatever your team is. So whatever happens, but let's get it on, man. I'm ready. I'm excited. I can't wait for Sunday night.
It's going down, and I'm glad you brought up the defensive player, because we are going to do another show for the IDP. Given that it's new, that's coming. It's going to come to you in the next 48 hours, so get ready, because there's not going to be any excuses, baby. No excuses this year. Everybody's going to have all the intel, all the tools. It's all out on the table. There's no secret apps. There's no secret this, secret that, unless you guys are paying for stuff offline. If you're paying for stuff offline, good on you. You're just doing the extra mile. But all this stuff that's free and accessible, we're going to put to you. I'm going to make sure of it. It's going to be transparent. The floor is going to be high. Grab them. I can't say the other thing because I want this to be for children's ears, but grab them because you're going to need them. And we're going to do a show on the IDP. That's coming, fellas. It's been a nice show. Every time me and Mike get on here, it's going to be an hour because we got content galore. So can't wait to get some of these other guys on here to get their intakes and just get the personalities mixing. It's going to be a great season. I've got nothing else, Mike. If you've got nothing else, we're going to sign off till next time. Thank you guys for chiming in with us. It's the Justice League cast. You know how we do it. Justice League, get ready.